Oh, feeling rough this week. Hey, yo, welcome to the AWO Journeymen Podcast, a podcast where we are now talking all things NHL and Liverpool. So let's get into it. No, I'm only kidding.
Nah.
I'm only joking. I am JD, the Blues fan who drank way too much last night while watching the boys go down in Brisbane. Bit disappointed, but at the end of the day, what a wild ride this year has been. So happy to still be here. Joining me as usual is Maso and little old AJ.
Hello.
Hello. The Freo fan who, I don't know, I haven't got anything this week. It's been a quiet week this week. So
No trade rumors.
Yeah, I was gonna say hopefully steals a player or two.
Hopefully we don't lose any.
Hopefully Henry's the only casualty. So, but actually, wasn't there a signing this week?
Yes, Coxie signed on
Cox.
for 2030.
Boy, let's talk some footy. Oh god, I feel and sound rough. I can tell you that much. All right, let's get into Friday night football. We'll cover some games real quick, and then maybe chats a little bit of shit. Yeah, getting into Friday night football. Collingwood versus Giants, 8-10, 58. Played 8-9, 57. Giants go down by a solitary point. 1 year on, the Pies, after going down by a solitary point in a preliminary final, get up by 1 point in a preliminary final. What a game this was. Holy shit. This final series has had some of the best games for the year. It's been great to watch some of the best that's come out, and Collingwood did not disappoint on Friday night. They were brilliant to watch. And that's nothing to take away from the Giants either. They were also a very, very good side. But
they give up.
They just didn't give up, but this Collingwood side has that never say die mentality and held the Giants off nicely in the fourth to run out a 1 point victor. The Giants got very close at multiple points during the fourth, but just couldn't steal it from the Pies. It is also who are some of your bests in this game?
Toby, of course, for the Giants as well.
Toby was great.
Single-handedly almost won them the game with some of his efforts.
The one-man army, as you called him.
Yeah, I called him a one-man army.
I think for Collingwood, it was DeGoey, Mitchell, Dacos. So that being Nick. Nick was back. Like Nick took it. Do you reckon Nick took a little bit to get into the game?
It felt like a quarter or two. Yeah,
it felt like he was a bit slow at the start, but as soon as he got himself going, geez, that kid's such a good footballer.
They're both ridiculous in different ways.
Absolutely. Crisp through the middle was absolutely phenomenal. Underrated performance as usual by Jack Crisp. But I still again, nothing to take away from the Giants. Tom Green and Josh Kelly through the midfield. Absolutely.
Josh Kelly
dominant.
on one leg.
I know, and Green Green with a load on his shoulders like no tomorrow as well. So Tom Green is an absolute star of the future. He's a star now, realistically, but he is just like when the Giants do eventually win a grand final, I feel like he will be either their captain. So I don't know if it's going to come soon, that grand final for the Giants, but yeah, I have a feeling. He is only. God damn you!
I always do this. I always fucking do this.
Damn you! You know what you're gonna do? I'm gonna start making you do this. You're gonna say question without notice. Tom Green is only 22 years of age.
Wow, that's wild.
So, like I said, I think by the time the Giants are ready to win a flag, he will be their captain. He is going to be the Giants' captain at some point. He's a leader on the field like no other.
3 years, he'll be captain, I reckon.
Well, it depends, I reckon, when Green starts to either fall away or retire, sort of thing, which you're probably right, 3 years as well. Because Toby's getting up there with age as well.
I think he's 29, 30.
He's 29 now, so still in his peak, but also still going to take it, especially at that forward position. Might get a little bit slower as well. But again, back to Friday night. This was just a real dominant performance by Collingwood. There were times there where the Giants looked like they were going to potentially steal it. You called it that I cursed Collingwood there because I said that the Giants, and this was absolutely true. The Giants were kicking so woefully in the first quarter that I was, and the start of the second, that I was like, you can't kick like this against Collingwood. You're basically gonna cost yourself this game. Next thing you know, they start kicking brilliantly.
Like 2 free goals in a couple of minutes.
And it was
Jesus
like,
Christ, John.
you've cursed them. And then halftime, I had to go in and quickly uncurse them. And next thing you know, the Pies started kicking brilliantly.
Yeah, it worked. It worked off.
The curse and the uncurse.
That had to be the best finals game of the series for me. Once again, we'll get into this a little bit later. The controversies with the umpire decisions all over social media at the moment.
Disgusting both ways. If you're a fan of either club, you should be disgusted how that game was officiated both ways.
So it was bad for both teams.
So the free kick count ended up the exact same, 12 apiece.
Yeah, free kick count means fuck all.
No, but what I was going to say, so free kick count ended up 12 apiece, but there was so many examples for both teams. I reckon if both teams literally sat down, they'd be able to pick out at least 10 to 15 missed calls for each team.
Yeah, easy.
So, it's where I look at it and go, it was just and so any Giants fan that thinks they were robbed, no, you weren't, because Collingwood were treated the exact same on the night. This was a game of just absolute dog shit umpiring.
I was saying in another chat with mates, I was like, I am biased at the moment. Yeah, I am biased towards the orange team. So to me, it looked like Collingwood were getting fucked. It was screwed over the whole game.
There is a high tackle that wasn't called so late in the game for the Giants that it genuinely makes you disgusted in how that game is umpired. So yeah, it was, to me, it was both ways. Teams might see it differently, but to me it was a pretty, it sounds weird to say it was evenly umpired when it was just shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, best way to put it.
I think it was pointed out perfectly by, I think it was Kane Corns. I haven't watched the Sunday Footy Show today, but I think I saw a clip of it where he looked like he was referencing that the umpires put the whistle away in finals, and that they, there's nobody can argue anymore. There is a difference between a finals game and a home and away game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's not how it should be.
Well, I've talked up the Giants players. Let me talk up some of the Pies players. DeGoey. Yeah, once again, absolutely. Man, that was scary. The form that he hit in that game. He could do anything. He was everywhere.
He may single-handedly carry them to a flag.
That was Dusty-esque.
Yeah, perfect description.
That was Dusty-esque. Yeah, pretty much I was like watching Dusty out there in the final series. If he can continue that on to the grand final, they'll be laughing. I don't know who could go with him. I don't think Dunkley would be able to run with him.
It's an interesting one because I do think Dunks actually does have that in his arsenal. I don't know if he has the speed, but he has the footy smarts to take him out. You know what I mean? Like, DeGoey's still a very chaotic midfielder. So Dunks is a very classy type of midfielder. So I think it's going to be a very interesting, but I think we'll get into that in our little preview for the grand final. What do you think of Dacos, Pendlebury, and Sidebottom?
Just once again, Pendlebury just doesn't age. He's wild. He's class.
He's going to break the record, surely.
Dacos just slotting in like he hasn't missed anything. into a finals atmosphere game is just wild. And the defense for both teams held up massively. Quaynor,
Oh,
wow.
take a bow. One of his best games of
Wow.
the year.
Easy. He's becoming the star that we've said he always will be. Darcy Moore, once again.
Darcy probably
Murphy.
had probably one of the more quieter games for himself, but still was
Mm.
very solid down back.
He was there when he was needed. He
Yeah,
wasn't his usual
exactly.
standout, but yeah, he was there to do the all-important spoils and getting there and disrupting play when
Yeah,
needed.
yeah, absolutely. It's more positioning for more like if you're not having a big game in terms of possessions and things like that, like intercept marks and stuff, it's all about your positioning and how you realistically disrupt the forward structure for the other team.
But my other final standout would be, Bobby Hill for me. For this game in particular, like I don't know if it was the animosity against the old team, but wow, he looks dangerous. He looks more dangerous this game than he did last game, even though he scored more last game, if it makes sense. His pressure, his tackles, he was always there. It was so many second efforts.
He was pretty good on the night. Bo was I'm gonna give Bo a shout out. One of his
Yeah, the
goals,
boy
his
boy.
goal was absolutely brilliant. Got me up and about.
Yeah.
Absolutely love Bo. I think one thing that needed to be pointed out was how well Cameron and Cox took on Kieran Briggs. Now I know Briggs was a little bit banged up going into this game, so it made it probably that little bit easier for the both of them. But you cannot take away how well they double teamed him in this game. So they were phenomenal all over the ground, and Cox had just a really
Yeah.
solid night all over.
That's just thinking about it then, I was like, oh shit, how did I forget about Big Coxie?
Big Coxie.
He had a good game. He had a great game. Stood up when he was needed, took those all important contested marks down the line several times. And what did I think he scored a couple or just one?
Yeah, just the one, but
Yeah.
still a very crucial goal as well. And not to mention the fact that I think Nath put this best. This was Collingwood not at their best, and they still managed to get over the line. So imagine what they're going to be likely in the grand final when it's all or nothing, and they likely will bring their best. It's going to be a very fun game next week. I can tell you that.
Oh, it's going to be interesting who they bring in.
Well, especially perfect little segue there. The Dan McStay injury. So already confirmed out of the grand final, will not play. He's probably very crucial for their structure, and he was tearing that game apart on Friday night. Like he was looking deadly.
Clunking him.
Yeah, I think I said to you, I was like, he's got them sticky hands at the moment. Just everything's stuck like beautifully. So yeah, he's probably a bit of a loss, but I'm just not too sure who comes into that side for him. It's a
I
bit
don't
of a
reckon
weird one.
Frampton will be it. I go AJ. I pick AJ.
Yeah,
Johnson.
AJ's probably the more like for like. Frampton might give you that little bit more structure, but I don't know whether he scores. So
No,
I'd
he doesn't.
agree with you. You got to go probably AJ. Will be interesting to see as well if they play Ginnivan, inject Ginnivan as the sub again, or if he's going to be playing on the field instead.
I mean, yeah, but Ginnivan as a sub is good. He just brings on energy.
There's also an
Instant energy.
argument to be made that John Noble should be brought in for this grand final to play on Cameron.
Absolutely.
Well, it depends if you want to play Quain or on Cameron, or who takes who in that. But again, we'll jump ahead. We'll hypothesize some of these a little bit later.
Yeah, okay.
But I mean, have you got anything more to add about this Friday night clash?
No, not really. Like, yeah, as I said, like it was amazing. Both teams brought it. No give from either side. What you want to see from a final series? Umpiring shit as usual. But yeah, that's the breaks.
And one
Pretty
happy
much.
boy in Nathan, who now, as he said, will have to deal with potential heartbreak, but also potential glory.
I mean, there's some relief for me as well because man, I couldn't deal with them winning. I couldn't. I
I think
couldn't.
it's perfect. That's a perfect little segue into Saturday's game, which might just sneak in a little bit of what I did on Saturday as well. Got to go to the hockey for the first time in Australia as well. So very I don't think anything could really rain on my parade from Saturday, even before the preliminary final started. So that was a little bit good. But
Hmm.
yeah, getting into the prelim, Saturday game, Carlton going up to the Gabba, and as I had predicted, finally them getting stomped. So it was a 11-13 79, played 9-9 63. Lions by 16 points. Carlton just didn't fire a shot after quarter time. Game was, we came out to play, and I was really proud with how the boys started that game. Five goals to one in the first quarter. You can't ask for a better start at the Gabba. But to let the Lions come back with a 5-goal second quarter and then a 1-goal quarter for us, it was the tale of two. It was always like the tale of two halves in the first two quarters. It was a weird game in that sense where Carlton just stopped
They ran out of steam, man. From
straight
what I
away
could
too.
see. Yeah, like they just went all to the wall in like the first quarter. I think you guys are expecting to score at least 8 to 9 goals or something. Way that you guys were firing, and yes, there was a lot of missed opportunities in that first quarter as well. So, but like, still, that's wild. Just to like go 100 completely and just put everything on the line in the first quarter. Because after that second quarter, they just ran you off your feet. It was they used the handball run and carry game, and you couldn't run with them because they
I
took the
wonder.
contested.
I wonder if it's like you said, if they were just trying to almost shock the Lions in the
Well,
first, or like they were trying to do it. They were clearly trying to do it in the second as well, and that's where it started to fall away a bit, I reckon. But there was also plenty of other things that just weren't going right for the boys, and I do think that they came back nicely in the fourth in terms of sticking in the game and not letting themselves get run over. They looked like the worst team, but that's also, I'm kind of looking at it like, all right, this is the Lions who have played how many preliminary finals, have so much finals experience, have so many hungry players for a flag, coming up against a team that probably wasn't expecting to get to where they did, and when they did, were just probably trying everything they could to win, but just couldn't work out how to get over this Lions side. So Vossi's also never beaten Brisbane.
Oh,
So
lol. Okay. I didn't know
it's
that.
the only team that he hasn't beaten since he took over as Carlton coach. Interesting fact for you as well that Nate told me, McRae has beaten everybody except for one as well, Brisbane.
Oh,
Very
God.
interesting.
He's going to be a nervous boy.
Yeah, well,
Jesus.
especially probably watching one of his best mates, Vossi, as well, get a real royal treatment from Brisbane as well. Because they were great. Let's be honest. They just, like you said, they ran us off our feet. Kitty Coleman, mate. Holy fuck.
Yeah, like, wow. When it's been like the last few years that the halfback has been just integral. And once again, a halfback has just stood up and been amazing. The
Yeah.
way that he can just slice defenses open and his
He was
kicks.
so good.
Like the fact that when he took that mark and then he handed it off, I think it was to McCluggage, I think.
I think so, yeah.
And then that gives him time to run in and then hit up, I think, Hipwood or Danaher for an easy kick in the 50. If he takes his time, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Do you know how many marks he took in this game?
Yeah, 10 or
10.
11. Okay.
So 10 marks in this game. He was just everywhere. Like, he was the biggest headache that Carlton had in this game. You know, but it wasn't just him that dominated Carlton. The big O, mate. He was phenomenal in the middle. You know, the boys did a number on Gorn last week, but just couldn't do the same number on McInerney. He was great through the middle. Zorko showed up to he wants that flag desperately, and you can tell. McCarthy, the job Dunkley did on Cripps was phenomenal. You know, Darcy Wilmot, Connor McKenna. They had a lot of, and to me, it was a real solid team performance for the Lions. Maybe a few players in the forward line, and maybe like that didn't perform it, especially Charlie Cameron, which I think, and Cam Rayner. But I think in that sense, you have to give credit to the work that Adam Sard did on Charlie Cameron, and what a phenomenal performance by Sard. He had that never say die attitude, and realistically did a brilliant job. Sacrificed a lot of his own game though, which is was a big risk for the Blues when you've got that speed of Sard. And you've seen it best the last 2 weeks. His injection of speed off half back is what you need. So we're desperately looking for someone like Zach Williams to come back and be the other injection of speed off the other half back, hopefully.
Big Danaher for them. They just have too many firing options compared to you guys. And I think that is just due to maturity.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
If that Lions side was from a couple years ago, they're not coming back from that first quarter smacking. But the fact that, it was due to the maturity, it's due to all the final series that they were able to hunker down and come back from that.
Or their heartbreak as well.
I did not expect them to. I expected them to like slowly chip away and then maybe have like a very close back and forth fourth quarter. But no.
They just
Complete
dominated.
turnaround. Yeah. Dominated from the second quarter forward.
Yeah. I think so the other big story for them now, he's probably likely fine. He looked fine after the game, was Lockie Neal's potential shoulder injury. So he looked a sore boy, but let's be honest, mate, you know Lockie Neal, he ain't missing a final for anything, like a grand final for anything.
Oh, God, his comment afterwards, I didn't know we had him as fucking sub in our grand final in 2013. Fuck me, man.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Ross, not a
What the
premiership coach.
Fuck. All right. Do it. Do us like I love you, Nate, but fuck, I just want to see Lockie win. He deserves it. I love you, Nate, but I need to see Lockie win. So I do not care. I do not care come the grand final.
Well, to be fair, you and I don't have a horse in this race, so Nate's the big one who's gotta have the worry for next week. Now I'm gonna give a few Carlton players a bit of credit because got to give my boys a little bit of love before we move on to the preview. Sam Walsh, what a final series! So he had another 33 disposals yesterday, and he realistically has been the best player for mine. Like, and I know that's biased probably a little bit, but the best player throughout the final series. He has tried to will Carlton to. He was trying to will Carlton to another victory yesterday. Just couldn't do it. Sam Doherty as well. What a leader that man is. I absolutely adore that man, and love what he puts out on the field. Hopefully, we can get a flag for a man like that. Nick Newman, his leadership again. Weeders as well. I thought Caleb Marchbank was brilliant. Jordan Boyd, what an injection he was. Paddy Cripps with his 2 goals sort of felt like he really did try to step up as well. Ches was quite good, and so was Hewitt. But I think you would have noticed a trend there a little bit. A lot of the
Where's my
names
boy
I'm
Akers?
well, Akers had a bit of a dog game for mine. Just couldn't really impact. I feel like his arm has finally given up on him. And I'm kind of glad that the season's over for his sake and that he's finally able to probably go get surgery on his fucking shoulder or collarbone because
That thing's been
he
fucked since like round 6.
it feels like it realistically he did it in round 24, but so you think that's a month ago, over a month ago.
Mm.
So the poor guy's probably been in pain for over a month and just needs to get that thing fixed. Doherty will likely also go in for surgery. Yeah, there was just a few boys that, I'm sure they're probably going to look back on their games and just be a bit disappointed with themselves. Like Jesse Motlop was on fire last week, barely sided yesterday. Sin Cotter, he was down on form yesterday. Fogarty, his pressure just wasn't as immense as it could have been. Pitnet, like I sort of mentioned before, just couldn't do the job that he did last week. And Charlie Curnow, what a disappointing final series. 3 goals for the entire final series. Really needs to sort of have a think about how you don't want to be known as a great home and away player, and you want to be known as a great finals player. I know it's his first final series, so it's probably a little bit harsh to, all that pressure that he would have been carrying as well for this whole final series. I think now that we're past that, it's now back to that mentality of, it's all of you to win a flag, not just one of you. So enough of Carlton. They tried their hardest. They did their best. I'm proud as a Carlton supporter. I know you've seen a lot of the same comments that a lot of Carlton fans just really don't give a shit about the result. We're just happy with our first final series in 10 years, and we made a prelim. Like, I haven't seen a prelim since 2000.
Jesus.
That's 23 years, mate. So, last time I was, and it brings back a little bit of memories as well, because last time I was watching a prelim, I was sitting on my nan's lap. This time, when I was watching a prelim, I'm sitting there with my nan's scarf on. So, it's those little things, So, at the end of the day, Carlton go down in a prelim, Lions through. Like you and I said, we haven't got a horse in next week's race, so it'd just be fun to watch it as a neutral. Neutral games are usually the funnest, especially this time of year now. So I haven't got to stress, you haven't got to stress, and now we're just down to the biggest game of the year, which we may as well do our preview for.
I just hope it's a good game, to be honest. I just want a close game. I'm sick of these blowouts.
Well, I'm glad that it's the Lions versus Collingwood because 1 and 2 on the ladder. It's the 2 best teams all year. But I was talking to you about how the Lions will not have to leave the Gabba until Grand Final Day. And the reason why I think they've got a shot on Grand Final Day, even to know the MCG record, is the fact that it's the last game of the year. They don't have to fight for the lot. Like, what I'm talking about? Like, when they're in a prelim, they're fighting to get themselves to that last game of the year and they get in their own heads a bit. Whereas when you're in a grand final, they can have that mentality now of there's just no tomorrow. So they can go a lot harder. And because that's where I think that they defeat themselves at the MCG is they get in their own heads about it. Whereas I have this weird feeling that if they're at the MCG on a grand final day, they're going to have a different mentality.
I don't know. I feel the crowd's going to be too much for them.
Oh yeah.
I'm still going the Pies, even with mixed day out. Yeah, I reckon they'll make it work. They've been amazing the last 2 years. The Pies, as good as the Lions have been, I don't know. I just feel like they can do it. I think this is their time, and I feel like the Lions are going to have to wait a little bit longer.
It's going to be an interesting one. I definitely think I tend to agree with you. I think Collingwood are going to be way too strong for Brisbane in this one. I think, like you said, the voice of the crowd is going to drive Collingwood enough that there was multiple times I reckon throughout Friday night's game where the crowd helped lift the Pies. So definitely think it's also going to happen in Saturday's grand final. Should be like I said, should be an absolute ripper. I still think that Lions are every shot to win it. It's one of those things where write them off at your own peril, because they are still looking the goods. You get players like we sort of were talking about, Kitty Coleman going. If you can get Charlie Cameron going, and him not kicking 1 goal 3, and then just kicking 4 goals, it's pretty much going to be all over. But also, then the Lions need to worry about players like you mentioned, like Bobby Hill, who, when he starts to bob up and kick, his 2, 3, 4, he can be a really dangerous player as well. Be interesting to see how the Lions structure up as well, because they won't have as many tools to worry about. Be interesting to see if Collingwood just goes with Cox as like you said, like we were talking about, Cox as the extra tall, and maybe inject Ginnivan into the side as a bit more speed, or like we were also discussing, bringing in AJ and having AJ come in as well.
Because he's a medium tall, so he's got the pace. He can jump. He can also take marks. So like he can also crumb. So he can do everything. So I don't know. It depends if they want versatility, or if they want pure speed, or they want pure tall. I think that's the only way that I'm looking at it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because Gardner's going to have to play again, yeah?
There is no guarantee Jack Payne will be available for a grand final should Brisbane qualify. So this was a few days ago. So yeah, you've still got that potential. He's gonna fight for it, of course. But you'd be realistically backing in Darcy Gardner despite not having a big influence yesterday.
He did enough.
Yeah. That's all, and I especially think with potentially with what Collingwood could bring in, he could still be a perfect match, because I think if McStay was there, there'd be a bit more worry. But without McStay, there's that little bit less. Maya Check, of course, is still a massive headache. Not too sure if Harris Andrews takes him. But probably more likely. But yeah, if not, Darcy Gardner takes him.
I think Gardner has the pace to go with him.
Yeah, some real interesting matchups down in the Lions forward line as well, because you got Big Joe and Darcy Moore, and then probably Nathan Murphy and
Hipwood.
And then you got your plethora of smalls like Quain Orr that potentially takes on Cameron, like we discussed, or Cam Rayner.
Would it be is Howe going to be back on somebody, or?
It'd be interesting with Howe, because how's that sort of rebounding half back, so he's definitely going to be on someone, but he's probably also on that more defensive, potentially on that more defensive forward. Maynard could go to Charlie. It'd be interesting as well. There's a few tasty matchups in this game, especially, and we haven't even gotten to the midfield battle yet either.
I don't.
There's some real tasty matchups through there. It's a real shame that Ashcroft isn't playing. Could you imagine Dacos versus Ashcroft on grand final day?
Ooh.
It would have been one of the best things. We could have seen two of the best young players we've almost ever seen taking each other on grand final day. Would have been such a tasty option. But then you've also got Neil, like Dunkley, some real crucial battles through their midfield. The Big O, again, like we said, they've got to do a double team on Oscar McInerney as well. So be interesting to see how Cameron and Cox do that against him, because that's one thing that Carlton did fail at.
Yeah, this can honestly be won or lost at the team.
Yeah, this game's going to be Yeah, it's gonna be. It could be won in a number of places. I've got a feeling it's going to be. Now, this is one of those things where we love to make the joke. Where I've got a feeling it's going to be the team that kicks most accurately on the day. But I actually think that's genuine because of how this final series has been determined a lot by inaccuracy, and I just
Mm-hmm.
have a feeling that potentially somebody's going to get inaccurate on the day. Depends who that's going to be. Now, the Lions have a really decent record against Collingwood recently. Uh, so they've become a bit of a bogey side for the Pies over the last three years. And as we sort of mentioned before, McRae's never um, ever beaten the Lions. But what a day that you could potentially do it! Like, imagine he gets his tick against the Lions on Grand Final day, and then he's beaten every club. Lions have lost 14 out of their last 15 at the MCG, but so did Sydney when they went into the 2012 Grand Final. And look what happened there. Sydney did run over the top of Hawthorn in that Grand Final. So, like I said to you, I definitely think there is a thing with the MCG hoodoo in season and into finals up until the Grand Final. In the Grand Final, teams just throw everything out the window because
Okay.
you have to give everything to win one,
All
and
right.
make history realistically.
I'll take your word on it. So yeah, it's just going to be flip of the coin at this moment in time.
Yeah, I reckon anybody who can guess how this game's going to play out is a fucking mind reader, because it is going to be close all over the ground. We've mentioned so many matchups that could potentially make or break this game. There's certain players that you're going to want to keep your eye on. I definitely think players like Dacos, see how he goes in his first grand final. Let's keep our eyes on Mason Cox. I think is a good one to keep our eyes on. I think
Yeah, Lockie.
Neil's a big watch for us. Joe for mine.
Oh, Cam
Joe's
Charlie.
Charlie and Joe, I reckon, because if
Mm.
those two fire, I do think that's how the Lions potentially win the game. Down back, Harris Andrews as well. Then you've also got Darcy Moore. Yeah, there's a lot of good watches in this game of players that you want to see how they go in the biggest stage. Now, let's not harp on 2018, but remember the Collingwood started 2018 grand final like a house on fire. Different side, but if they can do the same sort of thing to the Lions and then continue the momentum, unlike Carlton did, I reckon again you can absolutely shock this Lions side like no tomorrow and potentially get them into their shells. Potentially early.
Especially if the crowd gets behind them.
Yeah. So I think one thing Collingwood may look at closely is what Carlton potentially did to shock the Lions in that first, and see what they can do to do it for 4 quarters. Because yeah, if you can work that out and stop the Lions from gaining any form of momentum, which to me that's what the Lions really fuel off, is that momentum game. Yeah, it's going to be pretty much all over for Collingwood early. But again, they got to do that first. I'll read out Nate's little love story to the Pies. I love my Pies. I love them dearly. 17th to grand final across 2 seasons. Fire sale, do better. 17th, new coach. Just a magnificent journey, and regardless of result, I'm proud of what has happened. 1v2 battling it out, and the best team will be premiers. Heart obviously will say Pies win, but my head is tipping Lions by 19. Uh, can't have a 5-year stretch and not win it all. I think their MCG hoodoo will be out the window. The weather will suit them, and I think they'll be right to run out 4 quarters at the MCG. Team selection for the Pies will likely be Ginnivan for McStay, and either Adams or Noble the sub. Lipinski the only player to be worried for selection.
Mm.
Lions will likely be unchanged unless they prefer Payne over Gardner, and if they want to expose Pie defense by bringing in Gunston, although can't drop Archie for any fringe player after Saturday. Again, I'm proud of what the Pies have done and won't be copying any abuse like last time. For any neutrals, please watch Lions vs Pies rivalry from the early 2000s and see how good of an error it was for Brisbane and what a flag would mean to the Lions fans. Credit to Chris Fagan and the club for creating a culture where players want to stay for now.
But now players want to come to Brisbane.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're not going to Queensland players. Jesus Christ, Nathan. They're not just going to Queensland players prefer to play at Brisbane over Gold Coast. God damn, Nathan. Major credit to and praise must be given to the Lions this year and the past 5 years. Couldn't agree with Nathan more. That's a big... Nathan's just written a fucking letter and a half. But couldn't agree with him more. He's absolutely right there. Lions probably have been one of the best sides over the last 5 years. It's probably their time for a flag. And the Pies still have plenty of years left in their run, whereas I don't know if the Lions do in theirs. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to tip the Pies. That's where I'm going. So it's funny. Nate's looking at the Lions. We're looking at the Pies because just have a feeling that they'll be able to ride the wave of momentum and get over the top of them.
I reckon so as well.
All right.
But I don't know. Anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen on Grand Final day, and we'll be watching with bated breath. So, move on to Cash to watch.
It's Cash time! Ouch!
Cash to watch this week. It was we had to discuss this before, not on Dynamite, but appeared on Rampage.
He appeared on Rampage with a steel chair.
This is Rampage, baby. So for those who don't know, Sammy Guevara has joined the Don Callis family, which Takeshita is a part of. And it appears that we are going to get a bit of a dream match at Wrestle Dream. Ibushi, Jericho, and Omega taking on Takeshita, Guevara, and Ospreay. So absolutely phenomenal when Ospreay is also added into the mix of that. Ospreay and Ibushi, mate, again.
Jesus.
So tasty. But yeah, as you said, he appeared with a steel chair on Dynamite and just whacked the shit
Rampage.
out of Rampage and just whacked the shit out of Jericho.
There's nothing really much for him this week, unfortunately. He just had that little segment.
Quiet week. We both haven't watched Collision, so there's also that. So potentially he was on Collision, but at the end of the day, I'm too hungover to look it up. And
I got a jet.
You got a jet and you got a son, and that is Takesh to watch. Now I'm gonna wrap it up pretty much straight away because I am fucking bugging. So we are the AWO Journeymen. Give us a like, share, subscribe, all the good shit. Follow us on Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube. And please drink more water.
There's my water.
God damn, do I need to drink water today? This is my 10th bottle, it feels like.